Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining for this session. I'm really glad to be part of Mind the Sec. This is the first time I'm joining this conference, and I am really, really happy to be speaking at the conference. Today, I'm going to be speaking about cloud native application security, considering that the developer first approach is important. So without further delay, let me go ahead and share my screen and we can go ahead and talk more about it. All right. So now here we go. And if we talk about application security, we've been living the traditional way wherein we used to build the apps and then it used to take 6 months to ship it to the internet. But now that there is a huge shift which has happened. Earlier, it was like 6 months, 1 year for a release. Now there are multiple releases in a month, multiple releases in a week, and so much more. And there are some companies which are doing multiple releases in a day. So there's so much more that has changed. And we are trying to live by the cloud native application security way. How and why? Because we are moving to cloud and we are shipping all our applications to the cloud. Now, let me go ahead and introduce myself. Now, let me go ahead and introduce myself. I am security relations leader at Sneak. I'm also one of the global board of director at OWASP, which is Open Web Application Security Project. I run a few diversity initiatives in India, from InfoSec Girls to InfoSec Kids to InfoSec Diversity, to bring diverse participation in the cybersecurity. And I'm also on the review board of certain conferences like Black Hat Asia, Grace Hopper India, B-Sides conferences, and some OWASP global conferences. That's a bit about me. Coming back to the topic, today we will be discussing about cloud native application security and building more around digital transformation pillars, dev first security, and how exactly we're trying to adopt developer first security. Now, if I talk about like what is digital transformation and how we are trying to achieve it, there's a huge shift which is happening in the whole industry. And especially last year, we have seen a lot of shift which is happening around digitization. A lot of organizations who were never thinking that they will move to cloud, they actually shifted to cloud. That was a big, big change that we saw. And there's another important aspect that I've seen is that organizations have started embracing that change, which is a positive thing, that this is something that we have to live by. This is a new normal that is there. And applications which are cloud native do more than just run on a separate platform. The entire breadth of these applications, as well as the approaches and talents utilized to create them, differs in a bit of a different way. Because if I talk about cloud generally, what you see, the first thing is you have a credential where you log in, and then another point comes is that you have a lot of shift and thrive of setting up in someone else's environment, right? So when you are talking about that, we have to think from a perspective that anything can go wrong. There are certain differences, there are certain similarities. And if we talk about security policies for these applications, they have to go a major transition. One will learn how to adjust the processes to the new organizational reality by adopting developer first cloud strategy. And we might say that this is just on papers, but no, there are organizations which are adopting this big time. There are organizations which are supporting this big time, because this is the way to go. This is the way to move forward and talk about the different aspects which are there. Also go over the market transformation and like the organizational adjustments that will be required to succeed, including changes to security procedures and tooling. I'll give you a specific instance to help clarify concepts and serve as the basic models for moving to cloud native application security, or for adjusting with a new change. And by the end of the session, one will know why and how to embrace the cloud native application security, which is called as CNAS approach, as well as how to navigate the market shift and the necessary organizational adjustments, such as change to security procedures and tooling. There are concrete examples which are not only aid to the understanding of these concepts, but they also serve as an excellent starting point for these processes. The session also talk about threats and risk associated with moving to cloud native application security. Now, while we are trying to adopt to these transformations, there's one big change that we have seen, that there are a lot of hacks which are happening. Talk about any bank, any giant, and at the same time, different vendors have started to call them as tech giant. The banks, the automobile companies, or the organizations which have never worked in the tech sector, but they are providing services. And this doesn't mean that they are not tech companies or they're tech companies. It's just that the concept that they are living by and they're trying to adopt cloud native way and with security. So what we need to do is we need to initiate dev first security by equipping our developers with a mandate and tools to secure what they build during the whole development process, because we can't ask our people that, oh, you have to have security in that. Even if we try, what will happen? It'll become a checklist. Okay, this is a checklist that I might need to follow, so I'm not going to do that, which is like going to be very, very annoying at times. But then if we talk about expanding the scope of this application security for cloud native apps to include controls that IT security previously handled, now we want them to handle. How about we let them learn how adopting security or CNAS, which is cloud native application security, require significant changes to the way we secure applications and infrastructure, and why it is going to help us in the longer run and meeting the organization goal. So by adopting to the organization dev first cloud native application security approach, it's also the way we are rethinking the security, the organizational structure, tooling, and priorities, wherein the teams are working separately, independently, but not in the silos anymore. That way is changing. Everyone has access to each solution. Everyone is sharing their inputs. They're trying to burst the myths around cloud native application security, that, oh, cloud native application security is the way to go, wherein we are trying to speak about different aspects, like how exactly these things can be done in a different way, how exactly these things can actually introduce a total new shift in the organization. And if I talk about like the shift that I have seen in the previous organizations, it was a scary feeling to initially move to cloud. But over the period, we realized that this is the way to go, because if we talk about agile DevOps, everyone wants to have that. Everyone wants to move fast. Everyone wants to have everything working on time, delivering on time. But at the same time, if we talk about the companies that I just showed, so if you work for a technology company and you already have software running, you'll be like, okay, the digital transformation is pretty smooth. But think about the companies who have never thought about it. And at the same time, DevOps and cloud in many companies like banks, in the retailers, and many, many different types of organizations, it's about shifting from a business approach totally. And that was primarily analog. And now we're trying to have everything online. So the position of or to be a digital company that does provide car service, digital company that does provide banking, and digital company that sell clothes. And that's a significant shift. It brings with it like all sorts of investments and platforms and how we build software, but predominantly it changes the center of the gravity for them, which is a huge shift. And if we talk about pre-cloud era, it was like, okay, we have an app code, let's download the libraries, we have servers, we have VMs, we have everything running in-house. But now you don't have to work for or wait for ages to get a piece of a software or to get a piece of a hardware. You can just go ahead and rent it. Now we are moving to Kubernetes cloud. So from a security transformation perspective, with that really means is that we go through this and we talk about principles, we talk about the developer first security and modern cloud native apps that we are trying to build, which are giving us access so soon or access fast. So there's often times that there's a tendency to say that, hey, yeah, these sort of like small business companies that is like kind of running along and moving fast. But no, it it does really work for the big companies as well, which are like Fortune 500 companies. And the reality is that it must, because digital transformation is trying to get all the companies to operate to a degree wherein we all work as a modern company or model digital company. So when we are going through these, we need to remember that there might be seem like we're going too fast. But really, even the largest organizations are start to working or to work in this fashion. Now, if I talk about DevOps and wherein we can write full dissertation about, if I have to go through this whole thing. So the model of DevOps revolves around independence teams. It really is like sorting of people into smaller pieces. And that's what actually cloud native approach helps us. There's another keyword that is being talk of the town called zero trust. Now, while we are trying to adopt cloud native approach, we do need the access to our environments, the visibility to our environments, where we understand what solutions we have, how many teams are working, how many departments are working, where exactly the data is flowing. So we are trying to do micro segmentation. So cloud native security or application security does really help in that area. And if we talk about assessing the different solutions, we can actually go for any sorts of solution, but understanding our own appetite, that what do we really need? Because this result of the digital transformation, if I highlight, it's like notion of cloud, that there are so many breaches which are happening, but there are good things which are happening in the cloud. So if we understand the responsibility between the cloud provider and the services that we are availing and the things that we have it on the cloud, we would be able to build in a better way. On top of it, in cloud, if we talk about in cloud, these things have not just become virtual, they have become APIs, and they are involved and managed through the repositories. They sort of naturally are part of the software. Model of the processes are stored in some repository, applied through a build. So they have become part of the app, and rather the app has grown in scope to encompass these sub aspects. And so when we think about this, and for security and for application security specifically, it means we need to expand the scope of application security, because all the security concerns, all the decisions that IT people used to make are changing, and APIs are really paving the way through it. So we need to have a new approach for it, which is developer approach. Because fundamentally, we've always been like, okay, we've been doing this way, we're going to do it this way. But with cloud native approach, we are including full scope for all the cloud native apps that we have, and we need to make it like a cloud first approach to be able to adapt to the independent team approach. So certainly dev first. And what is the difference? What exactly we're trying to applying here? Dev first means, rather than pushing security on the developers, when you have to do it, we need to work with them. We need to make them understand that why do we really need it? I have been a developer. I have been a security person for like over 15 years. So I understand what are the risks that can be there and how to overcome that, and what can be the optimal solution for me to forget everything and make sure the security is embedded as part of it. Not just like, oh, I have to meet a checklist, I'm going to go by that. So the need is something which we have to understand and apply security to it without missing it. So if you are a security person, your own needs, and just say that what is the most important part and what kind of security measures that we can take. But for developers, they need to develop an application which looks good, which feels good, and then that is usable for the customer. Security sometimes comes as secondary. And here we're trying to bring or involve it from the inception, so that we feel, yes, this is something which is the most important thing. And first off is, what does a developer know? What does an author know, auditor know, or what does an architect know? So these are like different aspects that come into picture, and how it is different from the old uh, analogy wherein a developer used to develop the site. It used to take an year or so, or maybe 6 months, where it goes to security team, auditors, they audit, they raise a high finding. And what happens next? We know that we always get stuck in these things, and it takes and security is considered as like a monster in the whole approach. And when it comes to security people, they feel, oh, we are the champions, we're going to own this, we're going to take care of this. And that's where it goes above and beyond. But what do we need, what do we really need here is developer approach, wherein we communicate in the language that they understand. So that has to have a cultural shift, wherein if we are raising any concern, we are raising it in a tool that developers use, so that it can become part of the whole life cycle, which they can resolve. And cloud native approaches are becoming less of a product, but more of a culture mindset. And uh, what to fix, what to find, and what to log is like a dilemma. But remember, if you log the most important or critical systems, I have seen cases wherein the critical systems are not even being logged, or the non-critical systems are being logged. And there are cases when the breach happens and people have no clue that what to do and what not to do. How many users got impacted, what organization data has been lost. But the ownership is one key aspect that can actually help us in understanding that what's our end goal, and moving the security to left. Now, what does it mean? That shift left is just enough? Talking about is just enough? No, it's all about bringing a mindset that I need security at each stage. And as soon as we start talking about any feature, any aspect of application development, we start bringing in views from different teams, from architects, from developers, from operations team. We share our experiences. Now, I'll tell you an example that happened with me, wherein uh, I used to work for a project wherein there are cloud native approaches, or DevSecOps was booming. Now, DevSecOps, when we talk about it, there are Scrum meetings that happen every day, like maybe for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, which is like a stand-up call. Now, when that happens, teams are joined, they share the status update, they understand what's happening between different teams, so that they know what's happening in the whole background and can support each other. So one fine day, there was a critical release which was supposed to happen, and the meeting got preponed. And security missed it because of the whole miscommunication. Now, what could go wrong if we have these miscommunications? Can we just go ahead and rethink about application security? Yes, that's the way to go. We need to make sure that we are speaking with each other. We are sharing what we have in our environment. Do we have containerized environment? Do we have Kubernetes in our environment? Or we have a kind of a hybrid environment? Who can share those details? The people who are working on ground, and they can only guide us that what exactly is there in the environment. So if a security person finds an artifact, maybe in a container image, what they will say that it's not my responsibility to fix it, it's the developer job to fix it. Now they say that there is a vulnerability in the base image, I need to upgrade it, and I might not be able to do it right now, I'll have to rewrite the whole code. Who will stuck where? There might be some exceptions that might come in, but what happens next? Like, I'm not in favor of exceptions, not against the exceptions. As and when needed, we should have those exceptions. But then there are cases when there are critical bugs that needs to be fixed if there is a production instance going on. Think about if there is a vulnerability and that gets breached. It's like using components with known vulnerability. If you remember the breach which happened with Equifax, what happened there? There was an Apache older version which was in use, and rest is the history. Everybody knows about it. And getting to know how many users and what infra we have, is again a big thing. We need to understand when we are spinning up our infrastructure as a code, we are spinning up instances just using a simple code. That means it might have some vulnerabilities. We do need to consider those vulnerabilities. And that's when security perspective is also critical. But it won't get you to the developer adoption. What do we really need is understanding, explaining them. Like an example, this one, we are moving to automation, we are moving to all the robotics, and we have kids at home, we have elderly people at home who are leveraging these technologies. So if there is a data which is getting uploaded somewhere, is it going to be legitimate, or it's only the things that are we going to be anticipating? No, there could be cases wherein there is a communication which is happening with a third party, and then malicious people might be able to upload something wherein these automated systems might be able to watch us, view us. To give you a very naive example of household devices, we have smart TVs, we have smart geysers, we have smart ACs. You're coming from a very tiring day and you wanted a chilled room because it's a summer and it's so hot. As soon as you're like about to reach home, you turn on the AC. But when you reach home, it's super hot. Somebody has got the access and they are trying to just change the settings. So are we going to rethink the AppSec, especially in cloud native environment, and what to consider? Yes. So we need to understand what exactly we are building, how much we are building for the cloud, how much we have in-house. So we need new scopes, we need new way of doing security, we need new skill sets. It's not just we need technical skill sets, but we need soft skills, we need people who can manage, who can balance out the things. Like project managers just are really good in balancing things. And if we miss out on that, think about open source code. Open source code, do we use it? Absolutely. 80 to 90% of the code on the internet is open source code. That's a huge chunk, like a really, really big chunk. So if we talk about open source security, will it always be with you? Or the open source secure or open source softwares or free or open source softwares are going to be with us? Absolutely, they are going to be here and they're going to be here to stay. My website is built on the open source components. And I'm sure, like when we say the stats says that 18 to 90% of the coders on the internet is just the open source code. So how much of that code is? And talk about containers, talk about like we are using them in and out. So do we have a responsibility towards our organization when we are packaging all these apps? Absolutely. Like we say, with great power comes great responsibility. And if we have one vulnerable image that can be shipped to multiple people, that can be used in our environment, and that can be used to make breaches and infrastructure as a code, which is like the most amazing thing that I like spin up an instance fast, create a CI/CD pipeline, especially in the case of sale days, spin up multiple instances so that we have load which is increased. But it is just enough? No, it is not enough. When that's the case, we are trying to make sure that the 80% of the found vulnerabilities are addressed. And not just that, we are trying to understand what are the legitimate containers or images which are going to be loaded. Because if we don't have the right resources, right sources from where we're going to be downloading, we're going to have base image which is vulnerable, and we might ship it to anyone and everyone. And that's when cloud vulnerabilities misconfiguration needs to be considered big time. And thinking priorities is important. It actually is important. And what helps us is rethinking tooling, rethinking platform scope, rethinking the governance approaches, the policies that we are creating. It is not like I am a production person and I have access to the development environment. How good or bad it's going to be? Think about, I'm the one who's going to place an order. I'm going to one who's going to modify the order. So I can do anything and everything. So self-service, rich APIs, community, that helps big time. And then DAS, SaaS, IS, what we really need, We really need cloud native application security and what really suits that. And we don't need to dictate anyone. When we empower people, they tend to love that, love the work, they tend to enable themselves. And that's when the point comes is that there's a CNAS survey which was done wherein we followed the simple principles, wherein there were questions which are asked, like what are the main reasons for most applications which are built into containers. So what are the things that people assume? Deploying velocity, ease of management, improved security, and then attracting different talent. Was that just it? No, misconfigurations are the biggest concerns, and they are the increasing concerns. And over half the respondents suffer from misconfiguration on known vulnerable incidents. Oh my God, that's scary. How about security testing? Do we need it? Absolutely. Wherever you go, whatever you do, security testing is a must. Pen testing, red teaming, this is like something twice as important as anything else. And not just that, there are high levels of automation which are happening, which is only helping the organization grow. Now, when great power comes, great responsibility. That's one thing that we have to keep in mind. And we need to understand how much is the time we are spending on fixing those critical bugs which are coming from all of these. Security transformation is a must for any organization. Independent teams require depth first approach because we need to have a trust in them. We need to apply the full cloud native application security trust, and we need to rethink the organization strategy. Like it happened to me, wherein there was a critical vulnerability, wherein it was just in the internal system. So we marked it as medium, like we switched the severity because it was not on the production system. But what happened after a while, that there were changes that we made to their application, and that medium vulnerability became critical. What we had to do, we had to work together and fix it. And did I figure it out? No. We had security champions in the environment, which actually helped us in making that change, helped in adopting the new changes which were there. That was the one benefit that we got. And that's where we landed to the new approach, wherein the teams were working separately in chunks but working together. The information was shared, the information was spread across that these are the things that we are doing. Do you need inputs on it? Do you need, can you help us in training? Can you help us with some brown bag sessions? And the organization goal is just to make sure that we are growing, we are delivering the right services, and we are secure at the same time. So not just shift left, we need top to bottom, bottom to top approach in this, wherein leadership communicates all the information transparently. And when development teams, operations team, or the ground workers like us who are working together, we talk about the leadership way. We talk about the leadership language, wherein these are the changes that we are going to be bringing. These are the changes that we are going to be making. So with this, wherein these are the changes that we are going to be making in an organization, it really, really helps. And it's always a two-way street, wherein we are going to be supporting each other, where we're going to be making an impact for the whole organization. So cloud native approach, wherein we are adopting the cloud services, we're talking about Kubernetes, containers, all of this. We need to secure them. We need to make sure that we are opening our umbrella before it rains. Thank you so much for listening to me. And you can reach me anytime on my Twitter handle, my LinkedIn, and that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was wonderful to speak to you all. And if there are any questions, please feel free to reach me anytime. I'll be very, very glad to have a conversation with you and like talk to you about it. Thank you so much.